The girls are gagged at the results of this episode. So we might as well hop on into it. And that's the Minority. We back, baby, for episode 13 of season 18 of RuPaul's Drag Race. Drop the head. All right, ladies. We tried to predict it last week. We were like, okay, it's either hers to lose. And we're just going to get into it because honestly, this episode was horrible with the mini challenge. The puppets wasn't even worth talking about. Rue was like, "This is horrible."
The whole episode was boo boo. I feel like
I'm
just gonna skip to the very end and just say that I feel like the reason why we got the result that we got was because the whole episode produced really poor content.
It really did. It really did.
Like
especially this far in the season.
If Rue had a hand in like these, okay, the puppet thing is kind of like a staple, so we get that, and I was disappointed that was not as funny. But also we have to remember, who are the girls that are in this competition at this point? Ain't none of them known for comedians. Being right or just what we look for out of this is big personality, and not one of them. They have great stage presence, don't get me wrong, but big personalities, the ability to just be able to like crack people up on the fly. I don't think there's been anybody in the entire cast that I would have probably rather seen rather than maybe what's her name? Mimi, the one from Miami, Mia Starr. I think she might have brought a little bit of interesting, but like based on her
snatch game
performance.
No.
So like out of all the personality types that we saw this season, how did the producers think that these group of girls were going to provide something that was funny? We saw the reading challenge.
It is. I don't recall a season this late in this, like for it being this late in the season, having an entire episode this like throwawayable, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because normally I watch the episodes like that Friday night. Like I let it kind of play a little bit and then I kind of like watch and kind of fast forward to the commercials. But I didn't get to it till Sunday. So I had already started to see on social media that something was awry. And I was like, Dan, trying to dodge it and everything. And then I saw someone comment on our post last week, a friend of ours that said justice for Jane. So I was like, oh no. I was like, damn. So last week we said it was Jane's to lose.
Oh, not we.
But
not we. And we can run that footage back. It was because you two.
Yeah. But then I was like, unless we have a moment where is a big shocker, because we have not had that big shocker yet this season. And sure enough, we got the big shocker in the top 5. So after the puppets and all that shit, the episode was a Karen's Gone Wild episode. And quite frankly, I thought this would have been a good setup because for Karen's Gone Wild, you could just go balls to the wall, anything goes, because we've just seen so many just Karen situations out there on Instagram and social media that everything is believable at this point because Karen's be Karen. So for it to end up in this regard, especially for someone like a Jane that at least out of the 5 would have thought would have been at least safe, and to see her flop like this, it was quite interesting.
I would like to go.
It was
next.
A whack ass.
I would like to go next, please, and thank you.
Go.
I have literally said over the last 3 times we recorded about this goddamn show that she was not going to win, and I keep saying that she did her homework based off of the girls and episodes before. But you give Jane a challenge that she wasn't prepared for, she wasn't going to be able to.
But
succeed.
You still had her in the top 3, though.
I did, but my point was, I said she was not winning because of the fact that we still have yet to see Jane outside of her methodical thinking of doing of what she did her homework for. I've said plenty of times we have not seen that, and this was that moment where she had to do just that, and it was 2 weeks ago at 1 hour and 6 minutes and 50.5 seconds, where I literally said that exact same thing. You give Jane a challenge she wasn't prepared
You
for,
did say that.
and she was
But
not
you still
going
had
to
her in the
succeed.
top 3. You
That's not the
didn't have
point
her
that
go
I'm
home at
making.
5.
That's not the point I'm making.
The point I'm making is like, this was
but
still
I'm the
a
one
shocker at
talking for
5.
my point. I'm talking about my
But
point.
at 5,
I'm talking about at my
was it a shocker at
point.
5?
What I said at my point was that she was not going to win because of that. And I also said to the lip syncing point that we saw when she had to win for the lip sync that she struggled in that. And that was the other part that I've been making over the last couple of weeks about why I didn't see her
You should have
winning.
said she was going home next.
I have literally said several things. Now, I'm not talking about saying that I predicted that she was going to go home next. That's not the point I made. The point I was saying right now that I was saying was that I knew she wasn't going to be the winner. So I was not shocked about her going home because I didn't see her winning it. I just didn't. And I've been saying it for the last couple of episodes.
Who do you say won then?
I kept saying Juicy. I've been literally saying Juicy. I've literally been saying Juicy.
Win?
At this point, when it comes to lip sync, I've been saying it for 3 episodes. I watched the last 2 episodes to literally have the markers of where I stood at. I still think it is Juicy.
Okay.
But I will say this, though. I agree with you, Kerel. That was a fucking shitty ass episode. I feel like
it was awful.
It was just
watch.
It was crunchy.
It was very, very difficult to watch. I mean,
it was.
It didn't feel. Honestly, it didn't feel
away,
necessary. Just go to the finale. Just skip right to the finale
away,
at this point.
I agree.
You can give away the whole kind of like puppet part or whatever, because usually the mini challenges aren't really like that enjoyable. It's like Ru is just like, doing this for her own entertainment. And then sometimes
100%.
we get a little bit of, hee ha ha out of it, but mostly we're just like, okay, can we get on to the main challenge or whatever? I don't know in what universe Ru and or the producers thought this concept of the Karens was going to work based on the girls that they had to work with. Watching this back, it felt like these girls had no idea what a Karen was.
Yeah,
they all like way. The idea of a Karen is based in racism. Why in the world would Ru want to highlight a character or trope of a Karen that is known to be racist towards Black and other brown people as a part of her platform? And it wasn't even done in a way that could have been made funny. And so like the concept altogether, shout out to the producers and all that for trying to stretch the envelope a little bit and try to do a little bit something different, but this shit did not work, and I hope I never see it again.
I agree. I don't know. I just
never want to see this again.
For me, it was like they were trying to drag up what a Karen was, and a Karen. I don't think I've ever laughed at a Karen. If I'm being honest,
no,
I may have been like, "You dumb bitch," or like,
it's
"What
not
the fuck?"
Funny.
Is like, it's not funny,
it's not
So
funny.
like, I don't see how you can make a Karen funny like that. Just
because it's irritating. It's annoying. It's frustrating.
Exactly. Which I mean, that's how we felt. So maybe it worked.
It succeeded.
It irked our nerves. It Karened after all.
You win.
Okay.
It's just like the whole concept stunk. It stunk. There were I get that, look, I like watching fighting videos on Twitter. I like that shit. But I don't want to see that shit on fucking Drag Race. I'm sorry. Yeah. I would have loved to have seen the episode before the finale where they're getting down to the final 4. I would have loved to have seen them do some kind of musical, some kind of dancing challenge, like girl group, videos, something that's just that just it feels good. They right after they did the makeover challenge, you need to hit that with something that just feels like drag. And nothing about this episode felt drag. And so I felt like by the time they got to the...
It was a drag.
It was a drag, right. And so by the time it got to the runway and then and what's also kind of fucked up about it was they shot these little vignettes isolated. Typically when the girls are doing these kind of their maxi challenges or whatever, they will do them, these improv challenges. They'll do it so that the other girls are in the room and they can see what's going on. So they get a sense of, how it's going to work. But they didn't do it. They did it in a bubble.
I kind of like that, actually.
Me too.
I like the silo that they didn't know. So because I like the
the
anxiety that it
combination,
kind of build. But
not the
I think it was
combination.
like if it was a better
Concept.
concept, I think it would have been super cool. Because normally, like you say, normally they have them there and they're stressed about seeing how good other girls gonna.
Right.
I like the stress of not knowing, but like, okay, was I up to par? Was I not? Rue was laughing, but maybe she wasn't laughing hard enough. And when they were doing their makeup here and like the experience of the other girls, I was like, ooh, that's a nuance that they haven't done in a long time.
And it would have worked.
It just was a horrible concept.
It would have worked if they had queens that had enough personality to be able to shine through in a concept that was as difficult as this.
Yeah.
They did not. Because all them queens are dry as hell. They have, kind of like off-center personalities and senses of comedy. I mean, Mikey Meeks did an okay job in a sense of I was at least engaged with what she was doing and whatnot. And I found like her, even though it didn't feel like a Karen to me, like she was playing with Rue, which I appreciate, like the whole, like, I'm going to, do a recline.
Yeah, that was funny.
That was cute. But all the rest of them, I was like,
it was rough. So with that said, like, I have a question. Like, even though it was horrible, at this late of a stage of the show, Darlene giving juicy advice of how to do her character and not really acknowledge it with Rue and things like that. Would you give the girls any advice at this stage of the competition? And maybe this goes to like upcoming episode on Monday, new episode of Minority Report. We talk about competition, how if we're competitive or not. This is a situation I would not be giving no advice at this point. I'm here to win the fucking show.
I'm playing the mind game. So I'm telling her to do the opposite of what she actually should be doing.
Right? I'm like, why'd you give her a good ass idea?
I'm trying to get as far away from the bottom as possible. So that means if I gotta step over your body to make sure it ain't me,
I'm AI in this hole. And for those that know sports, that's what I'm doing.
And then when I win, I'll take you to dinner, girl. Like
that.
I feel like I would have assessed the situation when I knew what the challenge was going to be to say, hey, none of these hoes are going to be funny at all and bringing this to life. This is a fucked up kind of like maxi challenge. I really don't even want to do it. So if somebody came to me for advice, I would just give them, but like knowing that like the whole premise of this is fucked up. Like the foundation in which this is built.
Juicy, the one that you can't outdance?
I don't care.
Like if you both in the bottom, you'd be like, damn, I done gave her advice. We both in the bottom. It was bad advice to that. And now I'm dancing against her. I'm going home.
I really wouldn't give a damn. Like, like that's just, like.
And I'm glad it worked out for Darlene to be safe. But I was like, why are you giving her good advice?
And
now it makes it.
It's a
and
good
now it makes
question.
it look to Rue and Michelle's eyes that Juicy thought of it because they commended her for stepping out of her comfort zone. And I'm like,
and we didn't see a confirmation that she gave that credit because in a lot of the times where she's had like acting challenges, like the very first acting challenge where she played a Michelle Visage mentor in a way, and Mikey had gave her advice on how to play that character or whatever. She won that challenge, and and to my liking, there wasn't enough credit to Mikey Meeks for that coaching that she got that made her be as successful as she was. And clearly, as a young queen, she wasn't able to apply that learning to this particular episode.
Yeah, but I guess the question is, how much credit do you give someone for an idea versus for telling you how to do it? Because like if someone says, lean into more of a Latin voice, that's one thing, but like to say, hey, say this, do this, and you do those things, that's when I think you get credit. But I'm not going to give someone credit for being like, oh, you should probably use a different voice. Okay, thanks. I'm going to use a different voice. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think she needed to be like, Darlene told me that I should, go with this character. I'm like, but she didn't tell me how to do the character. Like,
but also, it wasn't even her either.
Also,
she wasn't even thinking about no spicy Latina at all.
I was just saying though, like, how much of it is the idea? How much is it the direction of how to execute the idea? Right? Like,
let's be clear.
That's what I'm curious of as to when you say saying,
Right.
Shout out to this person.
Darlene did not give her like the codes to Emerald City. Like, you know what all she said was, maybe you might want to lean into your Latin roots. And that's about it. So like, it's not like she gave her the unlock, you know.
Well, that's the point I was making. That's the point I was making. Like, so I guess why
like,
would she then shout Darlene out for?
I wouldn't say that she shout her out. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that was my question, though.
From the beginning, when she really got advice, she never chose to do that. And then this time, it really did matter because the advice that she got was like, okay, well, be something that you know. And that's not really like, you know.
But like, clearly, because she was doing, if I would have seen Juicy sitting there,
she would have came out as JoJo Suia or whatever her name is.
JoJo, I see you all again. Maybe we should do JoJo again.
Right.
Like, maybe you want to redeem yourself on JoJo.
Comment. That would have been
mine too, low key. I'm not even joking. Maybe you want to redeem yourself. I would be like, maybe you want to redeem yourself. You know what, though?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That would have been funny. That would have been funny because, you know, like trying to
JoJo Siwa like, as a Karen.
As a Karen. That shit would have been funny.
I don't know if Juicy could implement it though. It's funny idea, but I don't know if Juicy got that in her wheelhouse.
That's the thing. I don't think. Yeah.
We would have been sitting here like, damn, that episode was horrible.
Right.
That's what would have happened.
You're right about that.
All right, Mama Ru, what you wearing, boo? Let's see what she was wearing this episode. Let's see here. Sorry, I'll try to zoom in here. Got too much going on. There we go. I feel like this whole season is like we've seen this dress.
Mm-hmm.
We have definitely seen this dress.
Yeah.
So it's fine. It's again, it's just been the hair all season for me. That's just been a disconnect. I don't know why.
It's giving cinch choir robe to me. I don't know. I just
the gay choir.
Right.
That's funny. It's fine.
Yeah, I just don't know like what she's channeling because it doesn't feel like drag to me. Do you know what I mean? Like drag. It doesn't feel like drag to me. It feels like a persona to me. So like this outfit feels like I'm going to Palm Springs and I'm going to have a lovely little week away. Like that's what it feels to me. Not like I'm hosting, you know, like RuPaul's Drag Race. This is my goddamn show and I run the empire kind of a thing. Nobody's looking at this outfit and that hair or that makeup and saying, I'm going to emulate that.
Yeah. It feels like the joy of her dress, like, because she used to love the dress.
Yeah.
And it feels like this season, she's just like, you know what? My feet hurt. I'm getting old. I'm just going to put something on. It is what it is. I'm still getting a check.
Yeah. What is T.S. Madison wearing, though? Because
her little jumper. Yeah, I don't know.
I think T.S. Madison like an auntie. That's an auntie that I know in my family. Yeah. Like, and you can't tell auntie shit. Auntie is giving personality, and she's ain't worried about what she wearing.
Auntie's gonna auntie.
And then we were talking about Paradise on the other episode. This is the actress that's from Paradise here.
Okay.
Interesting
which I actually liked her kind of like Tom Brown kind of like inspired outfit or whatever.
All right, so this episode, honestly, it really didn't come down to the runway. Like I think the sketch was the sketches were so bad that they knew, despite whatever people had on for the runway, they kind of made up their mind. And it honestly, there was not really an outfit that was just like, okay, this is the best out there. Maybe Mikey's with the rose hair. I kind of like that wig. Outside of that, everything else was kind of fine.
And the theme was from Wholesome to Fulsome. By the way,
Wholesome to Fulsome, and I kind of did actually like Nini's a little bit. Yeah, like her reveal was kind of cool, but
I actually liked Juicy's. Like I like the play on Alice in Wonderland with the poppers, you know, and then turning into like, you know, the Cheshire Cat, you know, with the puss. I think Darlene's was the worst. Actually, I don't think I know.
Yeah, it kind of.
It's not.
I'd agree with that.
It's not draggy like the other girls, but I will say what stands out from her with her as all of them are in like literally bodysuits or
Yeah.
like, you know, two pieces.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm in booty
They're
shorts in
wearing
a
nothing.
tank, you know.
Darlene
So
came in
like
the crazy in love piss style.
yeah, exactly. Folsom crazy in love.
I didn't care
Right.
for the fact that I found it odd that she chose not to have a breastplate or any breasts emulation at all.
Yeah.
Like that, it was a
weak,
you know,
yeah.
tank top with just like a manly kind of chest. I
Yeah.
found that kind of odd when she was walking the runway.
And her pads were ill fitted too. Did you notice that when she like her butt pad was a little ill fitted?
It was just bizarre in a certain kind of way. But I get that like this was more of a production led episode where they're just like, okay, we got to find a way to redeem this episode. Jane, top runner, you're going to be in the bottom.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was not expecting it to be her, and I wasn't expecting it to be her and Nini either.
So
I mean,
you weren't expecting Nini to be in it, or you weren't expecting Jane to be in it?
I wasn't expecting it to be those two together, is what I'm saying.
Who was your combination of two?
Yeah, who was your combo?
That would have been your bottom.
Would it have been? It would have probably been Juicy and Darlene, probably.
Interesting.
Yeah.
See, I think from the skits, it is these two. If I'm going off the skits, it's these two.
Yeah.
I think the other three did just a better job at the skits. If I had to incorporate the runway, then I'm going Jane and Darlene. If I had to incorporate the runway, if I'm being 100%.
I think Jane consistently for me, it was just the wrong time to have a bad day.
Yeah.
You know, and your bad day was just a little worse than the rest of the bad days.
That part.
Because they all had a bad day.
And shout out to the production team, because like, you know, if this was a production elimination, I'm here for it, because at least what it does is it makes the finale a little bit more interesting, because now we don't have to wonder whether or not Jane is going to be the winner of this whole thing, even though she's clearly outperformed all the other queens. She has one of the best records.
Mikey, though.
I know
it's Mikey now after this week.
But Jane has been in the top consistently more than any other queen in Drag Race history.
Well, she's tied with Mikey after this episode. I saw. They both had 7 weeks in a row.
Now after this episode.
Which is crazy to say.
Yeah. I mean, like last week, Kerel, you really got me thinking about the whole Mikey thing, and I switched last week, and I was like, you know what, y'all kind of convinced me. I can see it, and this week really solidified for me. I was like, you know what, I think here's the truth.
Mikey
I just really don't like her makeup, and I think that's why I was so blinded about seeing her in the final or seeing her win. I just can't get over her makeup. But like, you know what? When I sit back and think about it as an all, like I can see her being a winner.
Rue loves who she loves, and like Rue loves that kind of like wacky, zany, kind of like improv-y kind of queen who can just, and she likes him twinky as well, like super small and whatnot. So I can see this is between Juicy and Mikey in terms of who's going to win it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just interesting though. What I do like though is if you do have a bad day, you could go home.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like some seasons there's been front runners that have had bad days that did not go home because of their track record.
Yeah.
And I do like this shaking it up, saying if you are not up to par today, despite how good you were the rest of the time, you can go home.
You can
and I like that recalibration for future seasons now. That everyone has to step their pussy up the entire time.
I want to piggyback on what you're saying, Kerel, because I think the Drag Race community, the people that are watching this show, need to hear that, because the whole conversation online has been about the fact that this track record thing is a fandom thing, not a show thing. And so the idea that somebody has had a certain kind of track record and that should automatically earn them a spot in the finale or earn them winning the show is not something that is part of the show. It is something that the fans want to see, and they push that narrative, but that's not the case. So I love the fact that this happened to somebody. I mean, listen, Jane is going to land on her feet You know, I'm not worried about Jane, whether she does drag again or not. She has the goods to make a long-lasting career for whatever it is that she wants to pursue. So I'm not worried about her. Now the other queens, so they needed to do a little
say their names.
All of them.
All of
them. they needed this. Jane, this is a launching platform, but the other queens kind of needed this as kind of like a training ground for, you know, being the best version of themselves, whether that's in drag, whether it's an artist, whether it's whatever, to evolve to that place beyond the show.
I think Ru knows that in the back of her mind too. Like, I think she knows that I could send Jane home and she's still going to be a good representation for the show in the broader community out there. Yeah. She's going to land on her feet. She's going to continue to be great. She's going to continue to grow. And if she comes back in All-Star, she's going to actually learn from this and not be too overly prepared and enjoy the process that she might win a future season.
And that's why I said 3 episodes ago where I think I keep forgetting the name of the person that won All-Stars last year. She got smaller. Like, what's her name again?
Oh, Ginger Minge.
Ginger Minge, yeah. And I said then, like, I think she might have
Ginger Minge.
I said it 3 episodes ago. I think she might have a Ginger Minge arch, where it's like, you know, she has all the talent. You know, she can put all these pieces together. But I think that crown is going to avoid her just a handful of times, and then it's going to, and she'll be in that Drag Race ethos for years to come. But in order for that to happen, she had to lose. And that was another reason. That was that moment when I was like, okay, I'm no longer actually looking at Jane Don't. I'm looking at the other girls, to your point about how this is going to help with some of the other girls.
They love an arch. Like, the producers love an arch. And if, like, you come in hot and you stay at the same level, number one, the audience don't really connect with you. Number two, there's nowhere for you to really go. And number three, what story is that telling when you think about the entire season? And so they love queens that have kind of like a rags to riches, or a, you know, started from the bottom, now I'm top at the top, kind of like, they love a character arc. She doesn't really have that because she's so polished, which is testament to her. You know, kudos to her.
1,000%.
You know, she's a great queen. She does really great work and whatever. That's her time.
So, community, obviously, this whole time you're listening, you know who went home if you watch the show, and obviously we've spoiled it this whole time. But getting to the lip sync, though, to go against a Nini Coco who continues to bust out tricks that we like, bitch, we didn't know you had a cartwheel to a back tuck in you. And Nini got rhythm. Nini got rhythm.
Baby, she was swerving, throwing out vitamins. Them hips were moving.
Exactly.
I
was like, okay, Nini. I'm just staying the whole
That's where the Coco.
Okay.
That's where the Coco in the name came from. Look,
I'm in love with the Coco.
But like, I love the fact that through this entire performance, there was not a dip. There was not a lot of those stereotypical tropes of, you know, what drag queens have been performing, you know, to this kind of a song. But you can even tell based on the edit, like, the camera is on Nini 90% of the time, and on Jane like 10% of the time, because Jane really wasn't doing that much.
No. And it kind of just shows an area that she probably does need to improve on, is her lip syncing skills and her performance skills. Like, she's very good at a lot of things, but that's one area that, like, at least this particular kind of a song is not in her wheelhouse. Exactly. And then one thing I do want to say about Nini, though, Nini love her scully cap little thing. Girl. She don't do a lot of wigs.
Girl,
like, she don't do a lot of wigs. She love her cap.
She loves a skull cap. She loves turning a swimmer's cap into something. Because, baby, she ain't wearing no hair.
She ain't wearing no hair. That's the best. Fuck all this hair.
I ain't even a drag queen, but I love me some hair. Goddamn it! I want a little something shaking off my shoulders.
But her sewing skills are immaculate. So I'm excited to see Nini in the future. So down to the final 4. Jane went home and she was gooped, gagged, and bewildered in her interview at the end.
She's like, I don't even know what to say.
Like, I don't even know what to say, y'all.
She's like, catching the flip side. I was like, damn.
But she's had a lot to say after the fact, though. She's had a lot to say if you've been following, her and a lot of the other queens. But she was.
So we're down to the final 4. In this last episode, I forget what the previews was. What for this last episode, what they're doing? They didn't show too much of what this episode was going to be.
Yeah.
So, who's taken to the top 3 then?
I think literally it's going to boil down to Mikey, and Juicy. I think that's the two that it's going to boil down to. I think the other two are great queens, but I don't think that they're going to take the crown, regardless of however they machinate the whole kind of thing. They have a certain kind of appeal, but I think that they're just not going to perform at the level that that says, okay, you're going to get the crown. If I had to put my money on it, it would be Mikey or Juicy.
Okay, I want to answer the question. I think Mikey goes. I think Darlene goes because she's been doing such a good job of making Ru laugh.
Yeah.
I think, and that was one of the saving grace of her Karen type of bit, so that she was playing. She was played, yeah, absolutely. So she goes.
She said, "Can I get them chips?"
She said, "Did the Lord call you back? Can I get them chips?"
That shit was funny.
So I think the bottom two might be Nini and Juicy. I think we get that lip sync next week. TV. I think we get the lip sync next week of those two.
That would be good.
That'd be interesting.
I think
it'd be interesting.
Nini's the closest one that would be able to at least try to keep up with Juicy.
She has the technical capability, but she lacks the charisma, the connection that you have. And
but here's the thing, like the Jane don't kind of gag of it all. I see it being like, Juicy, you've been in the bottom a little too many times, and it goes to Nini. So I think I don't want to flip. But after seeing so many people be gagged this week, I think I need to be gagged next week. and Juicy be the one that goes.
Look, after this week's episode,
that would be good TV. Yeah. That's how you fuck everything up and be like, just give Darlene the crown. It's Darlene. Darlene's the winner. Darlene wins. That's the foolery I want at this point. Honestly, that's what I want. Honestly, give Darlene the crown. I want that. That'd be great. Can you just imagine?
Banana.
I would low-key love it. I would low-key love it. Seriously. Just because it's just like, I think it's at this point in Drag Race that things have almost gotten too serious that people have forgot what, it's drag, y'all.
Yeah.
It's drag.
Yeah.
And there's something very drag to fuck it all up right now. Mm-hmm. Fuck it all up. Mm-hmm. And tear this shit down to make people have to come with just a different perspective moving forward.
I'm happy for anybody that will win it. There's not anybody this entire season that I felt so deeply connected to that I was just like, oh, I want them to win the crown from the jump street.
I agree.
I haven't felt that way. So I'm like, okay, I could see a world where any one of them could win the crown.
Agreed.
And I wouldn't care.
Good for you, girl. Good for you.
Yeah.
That's
I'm kind of in the scenario putting Juicy versus Nini. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll do it, but I'm loving the idea of just fucking it all up.
No,
I'm loving that idea of just fucking it all up.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to send the fan favorite, basically, Jane don't keep on the gas, girl. Don't flip up now. Don't flip up now. So look,
and they've done a great job. The production team has done a great job of giving us a lot of surprises and delights throughout the season. So and unpredictability. So
that was a saving grace of the episode.
Because
no one else talking about the episode.
If it went any other way,
we'd be like, okay,
do we really need to talk
let's go
about
home.
Yeah.
Right, let's go home.
Yeah.
Bring on All Stars. But I think it's Mikey at this point. I said it last time was James to lose. It's Mikey's to lose at this point. Just the track record.
Don't jinx her. The last time you said that they went home.
It's been filmed a year ago, so they aight. So
I'm gonna die if that happens, though. Let me tell you, if that happens, I'm gonna be like, oh.
I mean, it's damn, I'm fucking these bitches up.
She said they a real time post production edit. That's what that was. They filmed multiple endings. Okay,
exactly.
But community, let us know. Were you as gooped and gagged as the world is? The Seattle Queens are upset. They said y'all did this to Bosco, y'all did this to Irene, the alien. Y'all just don't love the Seattle. Y'all only let Jinx win, and that's it.
Well, and the other queen took herself out, so they can shut up.
And Ben de la Creme took
Creme.
herself out. So
Right. So
I know they're like, this is as bad as Ben. I was like, well, Ben did it to herself. So like,
yeah.
She said,
but Loki, this is one of the biggest maybe shockers of a front runner ever. Quite frankly,
yeah, for sure.
I can't think of another.
There is a whole justice for Jane. Going on, which is great because it's from a marketing and PR perspective, it's just like it absolutely, it helps her to be more marketable. It also helps the World of Wonder tour company in terms of new content and stuff that they're planning to create. So it's good.
Yeah. So all right, we're at the end of the season. It's been a good one. We'll see what happens, and until then, wash your hands, your legs, and your ass, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.